And a very warm and special welcome to radio listeners and other opera lovers who have gathered here in List Hall at the Metropolitan Opera for this special occasion. And of course, our personal welcomes to Luciano Pavarotti and Placido Domingo, the stars of this evening on your 25th anniversaries here at the Metropolitan Opera. I would note that this is the first time that you two gentlemen have appeared together here on the Texaco Metropolitan Opera radio intermission. 2 years ago, I believe it was, we were together at the televised gala for the 25th anniversary. The Mets moved to Lincoln Center. At that time, I was asking questions, but this time we're going to let the listeners ask the questions. So let's get to the first question from Barbara C. Garcia Romero of Tuberon, California. And quite clearly, she wants to know, what do you remember of that first night for each of you at the Met in 1968? Placido, the role you sang, and how did it go? Were you happy with it?
Well, I think most of the people of 25 years ago, they remember the circumstances, and they were quite unusual. I was singing at the City Opera, and that week I have been doing Tabarro and Pagliacci, and that afternoon, the Saturday of that 28th of September, I was rehearsing Turandot the whole afternoon, because it was a broadcast of Turandot that afternoon with Mirke Nilsson, but I was covering the performance and I was rehearsing now. And I used to live then in New Jersey. I arrived home and Marta, my wife, was waiting for me. Well, no, actually she was not waiting there. She was shopping and she was expecting Alvaro, our youngest son. And I arrived there exhausted after I had sung Pagliacci the day before, Tabarro 3 days before, and afternoon rehearsing Turandot. And Mr. Bing has been calling me just at the moment I arrived. I said, he asked me with his, Austrian accent, Placido, said, how do you feel? And I said, very well.
You knew what was coming.
Said, no, I don't know. I said, very well, Mr. Bing. Why? They said, I'm very glad. I said, because you are making your Metropolitan debut tonight. I said, no, Mr. Bing, it's 4 days later. It was scheduled for the 2nd of October. I said, we are sorry, but Franco is not feeling well, and you have to do it. And it was one of those days. Very rarely, I believe, that the Met has to start a performance late.
And which role was it?
It was Maurizio de Sassoni and Adriana Lecouvreur. Yeah. And I came, I rushed away. As I said, my wife and my mother, they were out shopping, so my father was with me. I took the car, I was driving, and we were driving, for the the George Washington Bridge, coming from New Jersey here. And I was just vocalizing, because even if I had been singing the whole day, I was worried. And it was very funny. We stopped in one traffic light, and I was singing, and the people, the next car, they start laughing, and I put down the window and I said to them, are you going to the Met? I said yes. I said, don't laugh, I said, because you are going to be listening to me tonight.
And how did it go?
I arrived, well, it was at 8:20, and it was a great satisfaction, because by now the people knew, of course, it's a delay in the house, so everybody knew that something was going wrong. So Mr. Hawkins in those days came out and he announced, said, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Corelli is indisposed. Everybody said, like the logic said. However, said a young Spanish singer that has been doing, they started saying, yeah. And, so it was a very lucky debut, let's say it. It was perhaps more important and better than if I will do it 4 days later on my scheduled day, because it was excitement, and it took the pressure out for me, because I don't even have the time to think, I just went on, and fortunately I feel fine, and the rest is history.
It's history, and you remember it very vividly to this day. Luciano, you debuted that same year.
I would like to say the same thing. I would like to say it was a very lucky debut. Instead, it was a miserable one. I arrived from San Francisco after performances of Lucia. Then they were very good, very well accepted. I feel very good, in form. I arrive here, and during the rehearsal I fall sick with the Hong Kong flu. So I made my first performance so-and-so. My second performance was interrupted after the first act, and it's the first time I wasn't able to sing the aria because I was choking. So I was very depressed. I went to my dressing room and I say to myself, Luciano, you are not coming back in this theater anymore. Instead, Mr. Bing came to my dressing room and he say, you feel not well, you go home. At that time, I did have already 20 performances on the schedule to do in the entire year, for between 3 or 4 operas. I was sick for 4 months with this Hong Kong flu. It was a serious matter. And I went back the next year doing Lucia with Renata Scotto. And the day before the first performance of Lucia, I received a telephone call from the head of the theater, who is asking me if I want to do Bohème the night before. So I say, why? Mr. Gedda is sick. And they say, I don't think so, because tomorrow night we make Lucia with Scotto. He says, well, she's singing too, because Miss Phoenix is sick. So I don't know which one you want to choose for my debut. Which Bohème? I prefer the second because it was a big triumph. But the first one was really miserable. Yes. The first one was miserable. And like he says, the other, then we were not prepared. So during the day we did live the life of a normal person, because the Lucia should have been the day before. It was splendid. We arrived there feeling great.
Well, it shows that careers don't necessarily have to be made on one performance in one opera
especially
house.
In a theater so serious like this. Then he has so many opportunities to give to you.
And over these 25 years, so many opportunities have been there for both of you. Let's move on to another question from B.C. Boyce of Haddonfield, New Jersey, talking about your predecessors in the tenor field. Enrico Caruso was considered by many to be the reigning tenor of the first half of the century, Mr. Boyce writes. He says the two of you are two of the greatest tenors of the latter half of this century, and nobody here will argue with that. We all agree. And asks, what tenors of a previous generation have most influenced you during your musical development as young singers, perhaps before your professional career and as you started as professionals?
If I can talk for myself, my father is 80 now, going to 81. Generally on the weekend he cannot follow me because he's still singing with a beautiful voice. I'm really serious. It's not a fake voice. It's a real voice. And that is the tenor that I begin to imitate when I was 4, practically. He was singing, I remember, Rondine al Nido, the song that and I was trying to imitate La Donna Immobile, something like that. And he brought home all the records of all the tenor of the past. He was a fanatic of Gigli, I was a fanatic of Pertile, and we were discussing, the little kid was discussing with of course the expert, because there is no doubt and the older must be the expert, and we grow like that. After a while I have heard so many tenor, and if I have to choose one, my predecessor I think is Di Stefano, because in my opinion is the true, like Caruso is a big true, Di Stefano is another big true. Is a musician who put the musicality more than the music at the service of the phrasing, who is in my opinion the most important thing, because you can invent the music in the moment then you do it. So it seems that you are created yourself the music, and Di Stefano was one of these, beside the beauty of the voice. So in my mind that is the person who remain, but the most influent in my making me decide at the age of 15 to become a tenor was Mario Lanza with the movie. So I went home and I was singing all the arias that he was singing, because Granada, all these things, of course 3 tone higher, because it was a little tiny.
Mario Lanza,
yes.
Hollywood triumph.
Yeah.
Placido.
Well, there is a certain parallelism in our taste and our first beginnings. So, because of course, I mean, we all take the example and the the greatness of Caruso. I mean, we have heard in our days the recording of Caruso, Gili, and in my case also great Spanish tenor Miguel Fleta, which was the first calaf in the world premiere of Turandot. And of course also my father and myself, we have a very similar voice. My father was a baritone in the zarzuela world, and a very successful one. He sang zarzuela, and he was very much tempted by the fact they invite him to be a Wagnerian tenor, to go to Germany being a Wagnerian tenor, because it was really a tenor voice. But the circumstances in his life don't let him. It was during the time of the Civil War, and before that he lost his father. He has to help his mother. They have a restaurant, so he just stays singing as a baritone in the zarzuela. But if you hear to my very early recordings, even before I start professionally singing, and you hear some of the zarzuela recordings of my father, you will hear how similar the voices are. Of course, I learned a lot from him, and I admire him tremendously. And then, just like Luciano, I was lucky to not only to admire the singing of Di Stefano, but to work together with him. I was starting doing small parts with him. I was singing Remendado in Carmen, Spoletta in Tosca, Gaston in Traviata, and Incredibile in Andrea Chenier with him. So I have the possibility to see from close what the real tenor was.
Well,
what a real tenor was, how really extraordinary was his temperament, his feeling, and his giving completely everything that he has that evening. And just to finish the parallelism, of course, also the films of Mario Lanza really make me thought about the opera.
Well,
I mean, I'm sorry it cannot be, but that's the...
At a younger, impressionable age. Let's go back to that other real tenor we've all mentioned and acknowledged, Enrico Caruso. And let's talk shop for a minute with the two of you. Caruso recorded Celeste Aida, which both of you have sung many times. Caruso recorded it 5 times in the early days of the gramophone record. The first time in 1902, and then in subsequent years, with different approaches, different phrasings in the opening bars. And we're going to listen to excerpts from 2 of those recordings and ask for your comments. The first excerpt was recorded on February 1st, 1904, Caruso with piano accompaniment. And now a second Caruso recording, March 13th, 1906, this with orchestra, an unpublished recording and somewhat different. keen smiles and facial expressions here. Gentlemen, just to note, Caruso did know how to milk an aria. The second version was 10 seconds longer than the first.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes.
I thought that the first one, it was already too slow for what I can do. So just to give you, I think in those times it was even important to prove what you can do, not just in terms of musicality, but even in terms of long expression. And so there is like this, Una furtiva lacrima of Caruso, then one is made musically, and the other is a little dilated. These are both very good. So I was not ready to breathe there.
You're saying that Caruso, this was the tenor showing off a little bit what he was capable of doing in terms of technique. Placido.
Sure. The thing is this, that in those days, of course, I mean, the taste has changed and so on. Caruso was Caruso. He's untouchable. He will always be. Nobody can sound between the F and the B flat, particularly like him. You know, I mean, the richness, the insurance, the full quality of, especially of all the voice, but from F to B flat, I mean, it was just amazing, all his voice. And the only thing is, yes, those days, if we will sing today that way, they will kill us. That's the real truth. Because if we will do those slow portamenti in that way, and we will do forma divi to breathe before divina, you know, and so on. They will say, well, they are not speaking Italian. But in those days, it was the vocal ability what it counts, and that was it. You know, they were not thinking anymore about no musicality, no taste, nothing. It was the vocal ability, and he has the most unbelievable way of singing. And but as I said, if we will do that kind of singing today, it won't be accepted. But in those days, it was a fantastic feast for the voice.
Tell me, Luciano and Placido, you've both sung this aria many times. It's a difficult aria. It comes right at the start of the performance, the evening.
Killer. Without breathing. You cannot breathe. There is never a moment in which you can do that if you are in the middle of a difficulty.
No.
But since it is a killer aria, are there tricks, are there ways around the minefield, so to speak?
There is one trick. To pray before. No, really. And go out with the throat open.
Yeah.
Because there is no salvation for this opera. No salvation.
No.
I prefer to go out and do Puritani than I have to do immediately a D flat, because I have one moment in which I can breathe, or two moments in which I can breathe. But in this area, you arrive to the B flat if you are not, if you don't know, if your computer is not driving you well. When you arrive to the B flat, you are gone.
And over the years, Placido, has your interpretation of this aria changed or evolved significantly as we saw the difference in these two versions of Caruso's?
Sure, it is. It's a role you live over. My first Radames, it was in '68. So it is also, it's 25 years since I have done Radames, and I have done 4 different recordings of it and many performances in Scala here, different theater. But the thing is this, like Luciano said, there is not escape. There are some operas that really you cannot escape, and this is one moment. Then either you feel at your very best, or you might either cancel or not go out, because you stay in the middle of the aria if you are not prepared. It is 3 B flats, one more difficult than the other. The first one, when you have get rid of the first one, you are relaxed, you said, oh, fine. Then is coming the big legato of the phrase, Then is coming the second one and the third one, which is, just really matter of God help you.
You pray.
Yes, you really pray.
Now here
but of course you change, sometimes I have been doing it, sometimes the final you approach, I said, un trono vicino al sol, un trono vicino al sol, or un trono vicino al sol, un trono vicino al sol. You change it, the approach, and one day you said, my God, it works, it's so much better now. And then the next performance, you think you have it, and say, no, it was better the other way, and you have to change.
Now, here are your 2 masters, 25 years at the Met, more years singing this and other roles, and really perhaps giving some pause to young singers who will face these hurdles one day. And I want to change pace here as we come to the end of our first intermission conversation with a letter from Christine Moore from Bristol, Pennsylvania. And I want to quote a bit extensively. Quote, "I am 14 years old and have just gotten a scholarship for voice, which is nice because I've been working very hard to pay for my lessons myself. My parents not being able to afford them. However, I cannot find a place to practice. Nobody wants to hear scales all day, and my family, which doesn't like opera anyway, won't let me practice in the living room where the piano is. So I have to go and practice in my room, and then the neighbors start complaining, which makes me feel very discouraged. And I was curious to know if during those far-off days when you started singing, the two of you, were your efforts appreciated, or did the people next door yell at you to shut up?"
First of all, I was reclused in the bathroom. And that is the place where I always try to sing, because it was isolated from the other two apartments. It was right in the middle. So the only people that they were complaining, eventually, it was my father and my mother. My father never complained because he see the son that is trying to imitate him, so he cannot be more happy. My mother, she always adored the operatic word, so I was able to. But as soon as I was working in the kitchen or in the bedroom or in the dining room, a lot of complaining. They call me cantante pazzo because it's very strange. Everybody is thinking that in Italy we are building singers since the time, but it's not really true. There is a moment in which, after the war, I am in the city of Mirella Freni, and we study more or less together, and we were watched like two very strange animals, not really two normal persons. They thought we were a cookie. To make you understand the difference than now, at that time. Now, if you have 1 millimeter of voice, you go to the conservatory, you take the thing very serious, and it's changed.
Placido, what would you advise Christine Moore, who doesn't seem to get any respect for what she wants to be?
Well, first of all, I'd have to say that I was lucky because, of course, being both my parents singers, I was encouraged and totally, and if not even at the house, but when they were rehearsing, I could go to the theater and I can rehearse, and I was helping them any way I can. I will put the music, for that evening, the musical stands. I will play the bells backstage. I will conduct the chorus. I was really having all the approach. Since I was a musician, studying music from very early in my age, I have all the facilities really for me to not to have any problem to sing. It is just a pity, and I hope that the parents of this girl, they can understand, and if it's something then she likes it, they should really encourage her, and they should let her do it. And if not, I think I don't know where she lives, but she should call maybe seriously, write a letter to the theater, the place, to the conservatory or something, and they should allow her to go and vocalize.
And maybe there is a career
Maybe
there.
it's a career.
How is the name of the girl?
Christine Moore, and I'm sure she's listening tonight.
Yeah, Christine, I hope you have a good voice. I hope that your parents don't shut you up because the voice is no good. This is a very difficult profession, Yeah. Remember.
Word from the master, she's only 14, a long way to develop. Good luck, Christine, and thank you for writing us. And gentlemen, our time is up for this first part of our Singers Roundtable. We'll have more later in this opening night gala broadcast. Welcome back here in List Hall with the two tenors, the stars of this gala evening. First of all, Elizabeth Hansen from South Orange, New Jersey, observes there are many scenes in operas in which the tenor has an opportunity to kiss the leading lady. She wonders if you, Placido, or you, Luciano, actually kiss the leading lady during these scenes, or do you fake it?
That's a good question.
Good. Please, let's not be bashful.
Are we lying or what?
The truth and only the whole truth.
No, I think the real case, I don't know about you, but I'm sure you have done more than me. I think the real kiss I made was under the recommendation of Tito Gobbi when I made my first Tosca in Chicago, and the soprano was Carol Neblett. And Mr. Gobbi did not take much to convince me to do that. At the end of the Act 1, before she's leaving, supposed to kiss her, and I did. She has to say one phrase. Ma fanno gli occhi neri. I think the first night she missed the bar.
Placido.
Well, you have to, when you ask about kissing, I mean, which kind of kissing?
Passionate kissing, first of all.
Well, passionate kissing, I mean, it cannot be real. First of all, at least I cannot, because I am, in that moment, thinking about 1,000 more things, more important than that in that moment. I'm just really thinking about the interpretation, about the singing, about 1,000 things. I cannot think about kissing a girl in that moment, you know.
Believe me. I say, are we going to be sincere or what?
Yes. Gentlemen, both of you have been involved in many Metropolitan Opera first. And before we get into our general conversation, we want to hear some brief excerpts from your Texaco Metropolitan Opera radio broadcast debuts. And so we're going to start with you, Placido. It was Tosca. I'm sure you remember it. It was February 15th, 1969. Do you remember who Tosca was?
Wait a moment. It was Birgit.
That's what it says
Birgit
here.
Nilsson.
Birgit Nilsson.
Birgit Nilsson.
Let's listen to an excerpt from Act 3. I believe you once told me, Placido, you've now sung Cavaradossi more than any other role. Is that still true?
Yes, about 230 performances. But that was also a surprise, you know. I was, on that Saturday, I was rehearsing Trovatore in the house, and it was, again, a cancellation. And I was in the house, and Mr. Bean came to take me from the rehearsal room about 1 o'clock, and said, Placido, how are you? Okay, I hope okay. I said, okay, come. He said, you have to sing Tosca this afternoon. So that was another surprise.
But you're happy with the performance.
Yes.
Luciano, you've sung the role too, perhaps differently. Is it a role that tenors obviously enjoy it, they sing it a lot, but is it a comfortable role for a tenor?
I think, yes. I think, except from La Vita Mi Costasse, who is a B natural written in a certain difficult way, I think it's a very comfortable and very grateful role for the tenor. He has two important arias, a beautiful duet, a very good character. I made the opera very late. Once more, this because one day I met personally Di Stefano, it was 1964. He heard me in an opera in Rigoletto, I think, and he says, "Oh, you have a good voice. What are you doing?" I say, "I'm going to Bruxelles to sing Tosca." He said, "Tosca? Tosca is an opera who can destroy your voice, you know." I say, "Yes." So I canceled the Tosca, and I think I made my Tosca in '78, I think. 14 years after.
You waited for that.
I waited, yes.
Years before, in 1973, you were already singing La Fille du Régiment, which many tenors would call a killer. Let's listen to a portion of that recording from January 6th, 1973. Joan Sutherland was also in the cast in that broadcast. And here it is, complete with innumerable high Cs. Luciano, I think for a tenor that probably comes under the heading of cruel and unusual punishment, as we say in law here. And you were actually physically wincing when you were listening.
No, I think this aria was never done in tone before from a real tenor voice. And I remember I made the production at Covent Garden for the first time with John Sutton and Richard Boning. And Richard Boning suggests to do the thing in tone. I say to myself, I think I cannot do it.
The real high Cs.
Yes, and then I took the courage to tell him that I am not able to do it. And he says, well, listen, don't sing the aria, never. Don't sing ever this thing, except don't sing the top. Just sing until there, build the thing until there. At the dress general, you will do it. If it's coming out, it's coming out. If it's not coming out, we will put one tone under. So the dress general, I have to say, it came out like an explosion, much, much better than this. And that it was the story.
And also there was the added stress and pressure of this being a live performance, not the recording studio. And it was your broadcast debut at the Metropolitan Opera. That's a lot to bear.
Terrible. But, you know, we are... I think as much we say that there is easy and difficult performances, is not true, because when you are there in front of the audience, the responsibility is more or less the same. So if you have the attitude of the professional person, you cannot change. Yes, they tell you there is 300 million people that hear your concert. So what? So what? I mean, I have to sing for two, or I have to sing for 10. You are always in the same awful, bad, revolting conditions. There is no doubt about that.
And it never stops.
No, it never stops.
As Luciano said, it is always there is not an easy moment on the stage. Every opera that we do is difficult at the right moment because you feel the pressure of the public and everything, the responsibility and everything. But, however, there are works and there are punishment, For instance, I think that when I have been doing Vespri Siciliani, or Luciano doing La Fille de Regiment, or when we used to do both the Duke and Rigoletto, there are parts and there is a punishment because there is not a single moment of relaxation. That's the difference. In other operas, you could have a little bit to say, well, the next scene is an easy one, but there are certain roles which it takes everything out from you, and those are the ones then that really mark you. Then the other nights they become a little easier because when you have so much pressure on that, other nights they can become a little
All right, which brings us to our next question. I think a question many people tonight are asking because the roles you are singing. Carol Orbaker of Oakland Park, Florida writes, given the variety of roles you each sing, what determines which operas you will or will not sing? Tonight, you've heard Siegmund from Placido, Otello from Luciano. Now, where do you draw the line in testing yourself? Luciano, start with Otello, which we've just heard.
Well, I think my voice is very elastic, if you want to give a quality to my voice. And I begin to sing from Sonnambula, and I sang even Otello. I think I have done everything who is possible for a kind of voice with a lyric voice. It's not even a spinto, it's a full lyric voice. So I don't think I am ready to do heavier role than Otello that don't exist. So I will never do the entire opera. I even say that I never sing Otello and I have sung, so I have to be careful.
And you smile when you say that.
No, I smile because I was sick and it came out anyhow. And this act of Otello in the rehearsal is the role is so important and so big. Then as much your brain before is telling you don't do it. When you are there, you are so much involved and so conquered. Then you really feel that is the masterpiece of it is, and you are a good part of this masterpiece.
Placido, you've been doing Wagnerian roles over several years, and now for the first time at the Met, Siegmund. Mm-hmm. Not an easy role for anyone, and yet you've taken on the challenge.
Well, I have started in the beginning of my career. I was singing even parts as Ferrando in Così fan tutte with my wife Marta. Was doing the Spina. We were used to sing Early Dead in Mexico, and I was doing the...
You were kissing for true there, huh?
Well, they don't have the chance. No, in Così fan tutte, but we did it in Bohème, and we did it in Bohème, in Faust, in many others, not in that one. And I was doing even Almaviva in the Barber of Seville. That's as light as I have been going, even Don Ottavio in Don Giovanni also. And I've gone all the way to the, passing by roles like Huon in Oberon, trying the recording and so on. But on the stage, when I attack a very dramatic role, it has to be for a reason. Also, my voice don't being a dramatic one by nature, by no means, But, of course, the dream of Otello was always in my mind. Mm-hmm. And now that I have done it more than 200 times, I'm really very, very happy I did it. Everybody told me, Placido, the day you will sing Otello, your voice is going to be gone. Well, now they tell me the same with Tristan. And I am attempting the Tristan in '96 for the first time. I'm doing it in Vienna. And they tell me, but Placido said, why do you take those chances? You have so much repertoire. You have done so many operas. Yes, in fact, perhaps for some people maybe, and the answer is if I will be comfortable and said, yes, I don't want to do anymore. But I really love basically to do it, It is, the role exists, the role is a great role, and I want to try it. And if for instance, 96, I am already very lucky that I'm still singing, because I have been singing, I am approaching almost my 2,500 operatic performance. Okay, you said I owed very much to the public, or I have given so much to the public, and I'm trying to give something else. If in the way I fail, or in the way I said, well, God said, Placido, that's it, I will be very happy because I have done so much singing.
The thread that runs through the conversation tonight is how much you give to the public, and that has certainly been heard and seen so many times over the past decades. But Bob Burns of Medellin, Washington asks, what role do you feel has meant the most to you and given you the most personal satisfaction? Not the bravos or what the audience says or how it reacts, but it's given you the most personal satisfaction. Luciano.
It's very difficult to say because the beautiful role, the masterpiece are so many, and we are very lucky then we choose the masterpiece, then we won't do. So we must be very convinced when we do something. If I have to say something different, and something that is close to my personality, I am a person that I think love is the most important thing in life. So I think elixir of love for me is, from the philosophic point of view, my religion. I am hoping until the end, then this lady then is not, very obviously, is not in love with me, or at least I think so, doesn't disarm me. I'm still going there because I think love is the most important thing. It's different than any other performances because you see me dance on this, you see me move more than I do in any other static role than I choose to do in a certain way, in a different way. And it's a little cookie, a little country boy like I am. Boy, I would like to.
Yes, all right.
Well,
on stage in the performance.
On stage in the performance. And I hope that I will do this role forever, even if this week we are going to do Othello, and certainly the day after I will not be able to do Nemorino, that's for sure.
Placido.
Well, I said when you have a vast repertoire, which goes with the French repertoire also, thinking about the Hoffmann, thinking about Don José, Werther, all the Manon, and so on. But I think it's difficult because it's just like, say, which one, if you have a family and you have 5 or 6 or 10 children and somebody will ask you which is the one that you love the most, it's very difficult to say. But since one has to go down to the narrow end, I think that I probably love very particularly 2 roles because of the feeling and also the suffering, which is tremendous. One is De Grieux in Manon Lescaut, which is one of the most difficult roles and one of the most complete roles, because his suffering is tremendous. His total sacrifice for love is really unbelievable, and also for somebody that doesn't deserve it, which is unbelievable too. And also one that I have never done at the Met, but I have done it, I just did it at La Scala, this Loris Ipanov. Loris Ipanov in Fedora. It is the most generous character because he's even willing to forgive the woman that he loves, that he has killed, his mother and his brother. He's such a generous character, unbelievable, and could be comparable also a little bit with Alvaro in La Forza del Destino in a way, But those 2, I think that Loris and De Grieux, they
speak
most,
to you.
Yeah, they talk
to you. Just change the subject a bit, not from speaking about what tenors do, but what you would want to sing in the baritone or the bass repertory. And this question comes from John Bro of Chicago, Illinois.
I would like to make Scarpia, who is so different than what I am, but for that reason I would like to do it.
But then you wouldn't get to do Act 3 of Tosca as the tenor.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He's dying happy because
He's thinking he's going to get
thinking, until the last minute he's thinking. He has just very few seconds to realize that it was fake.
Yes. So he
No,
died.
that is not the reason. The reason is that it's an incredible role, a role which is very far from my personality, and that is a challenge that I would like to have. It's a beautiful role, very artistic, and I would like to do that.
Placido, what non-tenor role would you take on?
If I will be a baritone, definitely I would like to sing Rigoletto. Because Rigoletto has some of the most unbelievable melodies ever given to anybody, especially in the scene with Gilda, Piangi, Piangi fanciulla, and the non morir, mia colomba. I cannot arrive to that phrase. I mean, when I've been also conducting Rigoletto, and when I hear any baritone singing that, I am crying before I do.
We can make the duet. If you give me a blonde wig, I will.
But you're not.
You have to shave.
And you're not saying, Placido, you would change places. Rigoletto is something you would like to do, but I'm sure.
No, I won't change places.
won't
I
change.
think we are both tenors. We have been tenor all our lives, and we will live tenors always. I don't think that one can change. I mean, for fun, like they asked me, and it was something that Luciano and me were going to do together, and after it comes out and it was not possible.
You did fantastic.
Oh, the duet. But the Barber of Seville, for instance, I recorded, but only as something that I was asked to do. But I don't have any hope or any illusion of doing a baritone role. I think we are tenors, and we cannot fake our voices.
20 years from now.
Yeah, but you cannot you cannot fake a tessiture.
All right. Where are we, not 20 years from now, but a few years from now? Tell us a bit about your future plans, how you see it the coming years. We've heard about Tristan from you, Placido, in Vienna. Luciano, your plans, and also any plans for the two of you to appear together again, as you did in Italy several years ago.
What, are you joking? Next year we appear together. We appear together with Cos'è. I think it's the 16th of July.
16th of July,
if I'm not
Los
wrong.
Angeles. Yes.
We make the three-tenor concert once again in the same ambience. The football cup, World Cup.
In soccer, held here in the United States.
Yeah. We are going to try to have the same result. It was very brilliant the first time. And artistic result, and even big enjoyment, sure. We probably will have.
And you're looking forward to it too?
Tremendously, yes. And as you said, for future plans, I don't know, I like to sing as much as I can, how many years, we'd never know. Operatically, I suppose, I don't know, how much? 4, 5, 6 years, I don't know, God will say it. And of course, concerts we could continue doing, and I'm so much in love with my, capacity also as a conductor, then I will live always in the theater one way or the other, that's no doubt.
Wonderful. Well, however many years it can be, both of you, it's going to be, and they will be very special gifts to all of us. Thank you very much, Placido and Luciano. Our time is up. Thank you for joining us for the Singers Roundtable on this very special occasion of your silver anniversaries here at the Met.
Thank you.